Hello. Today I'm going to talk about how I see my move to France after 8 years. And I'm going to put this in the lens of writing craft. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Patricia Brooks. I'm an American who moved to the south of France in 2018. And now I help people who are ready to start the next chapters of their lives living and thriving in their new country. I help them to build the kind of mindset that will allow them to do that. And on my channel, I talk about my life in France, about moving abroad, and how to live the kind of life you know you were meant to. And today I'm going to be talking about how I see my life here in France now. This came up to me because I am in the process of writing my third book. It's a memoir that talks about why I had to get to France and really trying to unpack that and understand that. And in the process of that, I've been doing some studying, some learning about writing craft. And I was watching a video on the YouTube channel called Film Courage. And that is a channel for people who love stories and the people who tell them. And so I learned so much, even though I'm not writing a screenplay, I learned so much about story and about writing from that. And there was one video that I watched last week that made me stop and think about how I write and how I might benefit from changing it up a little bit, but also how that has given me a different way to see my move to France. All right. And the video was, so that in case you want to check it out, it was entitled, The Best Writers in the World Use This Process to Structure Their Stories. And the person being interviewed was Corey Mandel. All right. So the idea is simple. We all get into our own habits. We all start to, work in a certain way that feels right to us. But he suggests that if we have a certain writing process, that we might need to shake it up a bit. That if we are an outliner and we have to have a solid outline before we can start writing the story that we're going to write, maybe do something different. Maybe start off with getting clear on the characters and start from that point. And he says that in his writing courses, that when he gets his students to do this, a lot of times the other writers in the class will say, wow, we didn't know you could write like that. And the person who has written it thinks it's no good. And so it's a different way to approach writing that may be uncomfortable, but might help your writing. And so shaking it up a bit is not a bad thing. It's challenging because it's not what you're comfortable doing, but it might change the whole game for you. And so I thought, yeah, that sounds really interesting. And that's something that I could benefit from doing in my writing. But as I was listening to the video and thinking about changing it up for my writing, I was thinking, oh, Patricia, even though you haven't done that with your writing, you did that with your entire life. You had done the thing that was the process, that the thing that you were taught to do. Get a good education, and you go to college, get a graduate degree, get a good job, keep that job or keep a steady job until I could retire at 65, at which point then I could start to enjoy my life. And I shook it up at 51 when I said, yeah, I think I'm done right now for working for corporate. It served its purpose. It got me to a certain point, but I am no longer happy living that kind of life. And I decided to try something new. I decided to change my process. And so I quit my job. I moved to France. I didn't move to France for a job. I took a couple of years sabbatical. And now I have this new business that I wouldn't have had I not taken that chance, had I not changed my process. And so I think that, yes, this works for writing, but it can work for your life as well. It could work for your career. It could work for lots of different things. If you're starting to feel like, things are feeling stagnant or I need a change, look at your process and see what other processes you might be able to do instead that might give you a fresh perspective or help you move forward. Because as the saying goes, the only constant is change. All right. So I wanted to share that with you. This is not a long video, but I do want to bring it back to writing. I am in a writing group to help me to publish traditionally, help me to find a literary agent, help me to find a traditional publisher. And one of the things that my teacher, the facilitator of this program, has said is that when you are writing a query letter, you want to write 3 different query letters from different starting points, because maybe the starting point that you would normally start with, the thing that feels most comfortable to you, isn't the best way to highlight the book that you have written. And I have written one query letter from the vantage point that feels comfortable to me. And I've started writing a second one from a different point in the story that really feels uncomfortable, but I need to see that through to make sure that, maybe that isn't the right place to start. And then finding a third place to start is challenging, but I think that it definitely will help me to not only improve the query letter that I do choose to use and send out, but also with understanding and being able to explain the story that I have written. So what is your process? What is your process in your job? What is your process in your life? What is your process in writing? Look at that and ask yourself, how else might I get to my results that might give me a fresh perspective, that might work out better for me, that I hadn't really considered because, it wasn't my habitual process. And then try it out, see how it goes. And if it doesn't work out, you know what? You can always go back to your old process. My question for you is, where might you be stuck? Where in your life might you feel like there's some stagnation? You might want to look at your process and change your process up a bit. All right. Now, I do want to share with you that I am new to Substack. I have a Substack newsletter that talks about my journey as a writer, my journey as somebody who has moved countries, my journey as somebody who now sees them as themselves as a creative, somebody who has reinvented her life. And so the articles I write there are all about that. So if that sounds interesting to you, be sure to check out my Substack, Patricia C. Brooks, author.substack.com. Subscribe, and I write articles at least once a week there. All right. So if you're a reader and you want to check it out, definitely subscribe. Also, if you are planning a move abroad, if you're planning to change your life up and move to France, I offer what I call information sessions. These are 30-minute sessions where you can pick my brain about what life is like living in France based on my experience. And I will share everything that maybe you have ever wanted to know, but I haven't spoken about on a video. And if you're interested in signing up for one of those, be sure to go to thecouragecatalyst.com/info session. All right, that's all I have for you today. I hope that this was insightful for you. If it was, be sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with friends, subscribe to my channel if you have not already. And if you have, thank you, thank you, thank you. I will see you again next time. Bye for now.